The firefighters said something they don't usually say out loud. They said if the dog had made one wrong decision, there would have been no survivors. Not the billionaire. Not his wife. Not the sleeping children upstairs. The fire didn't give warnings. The alarms didn't come in time. And money couldn't buy a second chance. Inside that house, oxygen was disappearing. Smoke was already crawling through the halls. And the only one who woke up early enough was the dog. What he did next wasn't training. It wasn't instinct. It was a choice. Because while the family ran away from the flames, the German Shepherd turned around and ran back inside. And what happened in those next few minutes will change the way you think about loyalty and sacrifice forever. The dog who ran into the fire. The firefighters said something chilling later. They said if the dog had barked 2 minutes later, no one would have survived. Not the billionaire. Not his wife. Not the children. And definitely not the dog. At 2:17 a.m., the house was silent. The kind of silence money buys: thick carpets, soundproof walls, peace paid for in millions. The Harris family slept inside their large American home, unaware that death had already entered through the walls. The fire didn't explode. It crept. It moved quietly through faulty wires, behind marble and wood, breathing smoke into rooms where dreams were still happening. That's when the dog woke up. Max, a full-grown German Shepherd. 100 pounds of muscle, scars, and instinct. His nose burned first. Then his ears caught it, the faint crackle no human could hear yet. Max stood up. And then he screamed. Not a bark. A warning. A sound so violent it ripped Ethan Harris out of sleep. What? Ethan coughed. Smoke. The room was already filling with it. Before the alarm could finish screaming, Max slammed his body against the bedroom door, then grabbed Ethan's sleeve with his teeth and pulled. Hard. No hesitation. No confusion. Just urgency. The lights went out. The power died. And the heat rushed in. Ethan stumbled into the hallway and froze. Flames had swallowed the staircase. Above them, upstairs, his children. Lily. No. He tried to run forward. Max blocked him. The dog barked once. Sharp. Commanding. Then Max turned around and ran straight into the fire. The smoke upstairs was thick and black. It burned the lungs instantly. Noah, 8 years old, was coughing on the floor, crying, unable to see. Max reached him and nudged him hard. When the boy didn't move fast enough, Max lowered his body. Hold on, Ethan shouted from below. Noah wrapped his arms around the dog's neck. Max turned and charged through the smoke, paws slipping, for already burning. He delivered the boy to safety. Then, without stopping, Max went back. Lily was 5. She never woke up. Her room was already glowing orange. The flames were louder now. Angrier. Max reached her bed. The heat scorched his back. He grabbed her pajama sleeve carefully, gentle, precise, and dragged her small body across the carpet as sparks rained down. His paws blistered. His breathing cracked. But he kept pulling. Down the hallway. Down the stairs. Out of the fire. By the time the neighbors woke up, the house was half gone. Sirens screamed through the night. Firefighters rushed in. Ethan Harris was on his knees on the lawn, holding his children, his wife sobbing into his chest. And Max collapsed. Smoke poured from his mouth. His chest barely moved. The billionaire didn't care about the cameras. Didn't care about the crowd. He crawled to the dog and pressed his forehead to Max's. You saved them, he whispered. Please don't leave me. For long seconds. Nothing happened. Then, a breath. Weak. But real. Max lived. The fire destroyed millions of dollars that night. But it couldn't take what mattered. Because while money ran away from the flames, a dog ran into them. And that is where this story truly begins. Fire service dog. The fire wasn't an accident. The doctors said Max shouldn't have survived. His lungs were damaged. His paws were burned to raw skin. And his heartbeat had stopped twice on the operating table. But Max didn't know how to quit. 3 days after the fire, while the Harris family slept in a hospital waiting room, Max opened his eyes. And the first thing he did was growl. Low, deep, focused. Not at pain. At something else. A smell that wouldn't leave. Ethan leaned closer. Easy boy, you're safe. But Max's eyes weren't on him. They were fixed on the doorway. A nurse walked past. Max growled louder. The nurse froze. Sir, has your dog ever reacted like this before? Ethan shook his head. Max had been trained once. Long ago. Not as a pet. As a detector. At that moment, the nurse's radio crackled. Fire investigation unit is here. Max tried to stand. What the investigators found. Later that afternoon, a fire marshal stood beside Ethan in the remains of the mansion. This wasn't faulty wiring, the man said quietly. Ethan felt the ground tilt. What do you mean? The investigator held up a sealed evidence bag. Accelerant residue. Someone had helped the fire spread. Someone had wanted that house to burn fast. To burn deadly. A billionaire with enemies. Ethan Harris had enemies. Business rivals. Lawsuits. People who smiled in public and threatened in silence. But the fire marshal shook his head. This wasn't professional, he said. It was personal. That night, while Ethan sat beside Max's hospital cage, memories began to connect. A former employee fired weeks earlier. A contractor who demanded hush money. A security camera that had mysteriously gone offline the night of the fire. And then, Max growled again. This time harder. A man stood at the end of the hallway. Well-dressed. Calm. Too calm. The dog recognized him. Sir, the man said smoothly. I'm with the insurance company. Max lunged. Alarms went off. Staff rushed in as Max strained against the restraints, teeth snapping, eyes locked on the man. The man backed away, hands raised. That dog is unstable. But Max wasn't attacking. He was identifying. The smell. The same chemical scent. The same one from the fire. The truth comes out. Security stopped the man. Police arrived. Within hours, the truth unraveled. He wasn't insurance. He was a private investigator hired by someone Ethan had trusted. A business partner. Someone who believed the family wouldn't be home. Someone who was wrong. The fire was meant to destroy evidence. It almost destroyed lives. Almost. Why Max went back twice. A vet later said something that silenced the room. Your dog didn't just act on instinct, she said. He smelled accelerant upstairs. That's why he went back so fast. He knew the fire would explode. Max hadn't gone back for courage. He went back because he understood time was gone. A quiet promise. Ethan sat alone that night, Max's head resting weakly on his knee. You didn't just save us, he whispered. You exposed them. Max's tail thumped once. Soft. Certain. Outside the window, news vans waited. But Ethan made a decision. He wouldn't speak yet. Because the fire wasn't finished telling its story. And Max? Max was listening. Always listening. Fire cliffhanger. The man who ordered the fire hadn't been arrested yet. And Max had only growled at one person. Which meant there might be another. The one Max would not stop watching. Max did not growl again. That was what scared Ethan the most. For 3 straight days after the hospital incident, Max lay quietly at Ethan's side. Too quiet. His eyes followed every movement. Every shadow. Every unfamiliar step in the hallway. But he never growled. Until the 4th night. The Harris family had moved into a temporary house under heavy security. Police cars outside. Cameras on every corner. Nothing was supposed to get close without permission. Ethan was in his home office when Max suddenly stood up. Slowly. Silently. His ears lifted. His body went stiff. Ethan felt it immediately. That invisible pressure in the air. Max, he whispered. The dog didn't look at him. He was staring at the security monitor. One camera showed the front gate opening. A familiar face stepped inside. Someone Ethan trusted. Someone who had hugged his children after the fire. The man everyone believed. Daniel Reeves. Ethan's longest business partner. Best man at his wedding. The godfather to Noah. Daniel smiled at the camera and waved at the guards. Max's lips curled. Not a growl. Not a bark. A warning. The kind predators give before they strike. Daniel entered the house minutes later, arms open. Ethan, he said warmly. I just wanted to check on you in person. Ethan stood up slowly. Behind him, Max stepped forward. Daniel noticed. He laughed lightly. Still acting tough, huh? After all he's been through. Max didn't move. His eyes never left Daniel's hands. A question with teeth. Ethan spoke calmly. Where were you the night of the fire? Daniel blinked. Just once. Home, he said quickly. Why? Max took one step closer. Daniel's smile tightened. Ethan nodded. Funny. Because security logs say your access card deactivated at 2:11 a.m. Silence fell like a dropped glass. Daniel's jaw clenched. Max growled. Low. Deadly. The truth breaks its leash. You weren't supposed to be there, Daniel snapped suddenly. You were supposed to be in Europe. The guards moved instantly. Daniel stepped back, hands shaking now. I didn't know the kids would be home, he shouted. It was only supposed to scare you. Burn documents. Delay the investigation. Ethan felt his knees weaken. Max lunged. The guards barely restrained him. Daniel collapsed to the floor, crying. He ruined everything, Daniel sobbed. I was going to lose everything. I panicked. Why Max knew. Later, after the arrest, an investigator explained it quietly. Your dog recognized him at the hospital because Daniel visited the site earlier, she said. Accelerant traces were on his clothes. Max hadn't smelled guilt. He smelled truth. One more threat. That night, after the house fell quiet, Ethan finally slept. But Max didn't. At 3:04 a.m., Max stood again. This time, he didn't growl. He went to Noah's bedroom and lay across the door, blocking it. Security footage later showed a shadow outside the fence. Someone watching. Someone who left when they realized the dog was awake. A promise forged in fire. Ethan knelt beside Max the next morning. You saved us again, he whispered. Max's tail thumped once. Not proud. Not relieved. Alert. Because the fire had been stopped. But the danger was not finished. Fire end of chapter 3 cliffhanger. Daniel talked. Names were revealed. And one of them had nothing left to lose. Max knew it. And next time, he might not wait for the fire to start. The night Max chose violence. The call came at 1:48 a.m. Ethan didn't hear it. Max did. He was already awake, sitting in the hallway, facing the children's rooms, ears lifted, body still as stone. When the phone vibrated on the nightstand, Max's head turned sharply. At the same moment, a shadow crossed the backyard camera. Max stood. No growl. No warning bark. This was different. The one who had nothing left. Daniel had talked. But he hadn't talked alone. There was another name, one that never made the news. A fixer. A man who cleaned problems so completely there were no witnesses left to testify. And tonight, he had come to finish what the fire failed to do. The security system didn't scream. It died. One camera. Then two. Then all of them. Inside the house, the lights flickered once. Max moved. A dog becomes a wall. Max positioned himself outside Lily's room first. Then Noah's. He lay down across the hallway, broad shoulders blocking the only path forward. His breathing slowed. His heart steadied. He remembered training most people never knew about. Bite and hold. Disable. Do not release. The back door opened silently. Footsteps entered the house. Slow. Confident. A man who had done this before. The first sound. Ethan woke to one sound only. A scream. Not human. A man's scream, raw, shocked, and breaking. Ethan ran into the hallway just as the lights snapped back on. Max was there. Teeth locked into the intruder's arm. Blood on the floor. The man reached for something in his jacket. Max adjusted. And took him down. 30 seconds that changed everything. Police arrived fast, faster than anyone expected. Because Ethan had made one quiet change after the fire. Max had triggered a silent alert. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. When officers burst in, they found the intruder pinned to the floor, shaking, crying, begging. Max didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't release. Until Ethan placed his hand gently on the dog's head. Enough, he whispered. Max let go. And stepped back. What the man confessed. In custody, the intruder broke. He admitted everything. The fire was meant to kill records. The second visit was meant to kill witnesses. And if Max hadn't been there would have been no Chapter 5. The cost of loyalty. At the hospital, Max finally collapsed. The fight had reopened old wounds. His lungs burned. His body trembled. Ethan sat beside him, holding his massive paw in both hands. You don't have to protect us anymore, he said, voice cracking. We're safe now. Max's eyes stayed open, watching the door. A decision that shocked everyone. 2 days later, Ethan made an announcement. Not to the press. To the courts. He transferred his entire controlling stake, billions of dollars, into a trust with one purpose only. Protection. For his family. For whistleblowers. For abandoned service dogs. For dogs like Max. The night ends. That evening, Max was wheeled back home. As he crossed the threshold, he paused. Lifted his head. Sniffed the air. Satisfied. Only then did he lie down. At the hallway entrance. Facing the children's rooms. Asleep but never off duty. Fire. The danger was over. The enemy was caught. But the world was watching now. And someone wanted Max. Not dead, but gone. They took the wrong dog. The attempt didn't come with violence. That was the mistake. It came with silence. 3 nights after the attack, while the city slept and the Harris house finally felt calm, a white delivery van rolled slowly past the gate. No headlights. No logo. No plates. The guard saw nothing. Because the threat wasn't coming in. It was calling out. Max lifted his head. A sound barely audible to human ears drifted through the night. A high mechanical whine, followed by a scent that didn't belong. Sedative. Max stood. For the first time since the fire, he left the hallway. The trap. Behind the property line, hidden in the trees, a man waited. He didn't look dangerous. Didn't look desperate. But his hands shook. "Easy, boy," he whispered, holding out a strip of meat. Max stopped 3 feet away. He sniffed. His body went still. The man smiled. That was when Max lunged, not forward but sideways, knocking the meat from the man's hand and snapping his jaws inches from the wrist. The man panicked and pressed the trigger. The dart hit Max's shoulder. 30 seconds of darkness. Max fought. He took 2 steps toward the house. Then his legs failed. The last thing he saw before the world went dark was the upstairs window. Noah's light was still on. When the house woke up, the alarm didn't sound. But Ethan woke anyway. A feeling sharp and wrong cut through his chest. "Max," he called. No answer. Security footage showed it all. The dart. The van. The crate. Ethan didn't scream. He didn't collapse. He picked up the phone and made a call that froze half the city. "Bring him back," he said. "Now." Why they took him? The kidnappers weren't criminals. They were collectors. Private buyers. Underground trainers. People who paid fortunes for dogs who had proven themselves under fire. Max wasn't a pet. He was an asset. And they believed money could buy anything. What they didn't know. Max woke inside a crate. Steel walls. Moving vehicle. Night air rushing through small holes. His body was weak. But his mind was clear. He listened. Counted turns. Tracked vibrations. And when the van slowed, Max braced. The crash. It happened at an intersection. A black SUV came out of nowhere. Metal screamed. The van flipped. The crate broke open. Max crawled free, limping, bleeding, but alive. Sirens filled the air. Lights flashed. Ethan was already there. Because he had never stopped moving. The reunion. Max saw him first. He tried to stand. Failed. Then felt familiar hands on his fur. "You came back," Ethan whispered, breaking completely this time. Max pressed his head weakly against Ethan's chest. Home. The world finds out. The story exploded. Not just the fire. Not just the attack. The kidnapping. The recovery. The dog who refused to be owned. Children across the country sent letters. Veterans showed up at the gates. And one message appeared again and again. "Because of him, I feel safe." The final choice. Weeks later, Ethan made his last announcement. Max would never guard again. Never fight again. Never be alone again. Instead, he would become something else. A symbol. A standard. A reminder. Max received a simple collar. No diamonds. No gold. Just one word engraved inside. Stay. The ending that matters. Every night now, Max sleeps in the hallway. Not because he has to, but because he chooses to. Because some dogs aren't trained to protect houses. They are born to protect families. And fire. Learned that lesson the hard way. Fire service dog. Some heroes never make speeches. They never ask to be remembered. They just stand watch, even when the world is burning. Max didn't save that family for attention. He didn't do it for reward. He did it because loyalty doesn't need permission. And maybe that's the part that stays with us the longest. So before you scroll away, I want to ask you something. If you were in that house, and someone gave everything to bring you back alive, would you forget them? If this story moved you even a little, tap the like button. It helps more people find stories like this. And if you believe loyalty still matters in this world, subscribe and stay with us. Now I want to hear from you. Backhand index pointing right. Do you think animals understand sacrifice better than humans do? Backhand index pointing right. Or has a pet ever saved you in a moment you'll never forget? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Because some stories don't end when the video does. They live on in the people who remember them. Thanks for listening.